The story of a remarkable journey, Denahan Cleaner and Dyer to Affinia Hospitality. Our story begins many years ago with a young man named Benjamin Joseph Denahan. Barney, as his friends and family called him, was born in County Cork, Ireland, but like many people of his time, dreamed of a life of opportunity in America.
At the turn of the century, Barney embarked on his journey across the ocean, leaving all that he had known behind. When he arrived in America, he met and married Julia Lyons, a young Irish woman from Passaic, New Jersey. Together they had 7 children: Doll, Bud, Jack, Betty, Dan, Griff, and Dick.
When the young newlyweds married and began to raise their family, they bought a brownstone in Tudor City and began to take in boarders to pay their expenses. Julia and her sister Elizabeth, or more fondly referred to as Fat, did all the cooking, laundry, and maid services themselves, and so began a long tradition of hospitality.
Barney began his career working in the wholesale dry cleaning business that catered to retail cleaners and hotel valets. He and Julia saved for many years with the dream of opening their own business. Finally, in 1915, they purchased a 3-story building at 215 East 64th Street and opened B.J. Denahan Cleaner and Dyers.
In the beginning, the entire family struggled to make the business a success. Every child from the age of 10 would work in the plant after school. No job was too small or too menial. From the beginning, the family saw the business as their special pride and did whatever it took to make it succeed.
Early on, Barney realized that if his name was to remain on the business, then the quality of work must be something he could be proud of. He hired the best employees and paid the highest salaries. He knew that if those who worked for the business were happy, then the customers would be happy. His focus on quality service and attention to detail earned him a very loyal following.
By the end of the 1930s, B.J. Denahan was the finest of cleaners. Its customer list included the Rockefellers, Astors, J.P. Morgans, and the Duchess of Windsor. Wherever customers went, the business followed, from the mansions of Long Island to the resorts of Florida, where they opened a branch in the Palm Beach Hotel. Eventually, they were able to purchase competing dry cleaning companies in the 1950s and lock in their preeminent position.
This success was hard-earned, and the family struggled to raise 7 children in the midst of the Depression. They never forgot the difficulties endured and always looked for ways to help others less fortunate than them. Throughout these years, the family took in several people who had no home, family, or job. Some of these people eventually moved on in their lives. Others are buried in the family plot.
The Second World War came and took 4 of the brothers, Jack, Griff, Bud, and Dick, far away. Dan stayed home because he only had 1 kidney, a condition he was to eventually die from. In 1942, Barney died suddenly from a fall down a flight of subway steps. Julia and the 3 remaining children, Betty, Dan, and Doll, struggled to keep the business together throughout the war. Due to strict rationing of cleaning supplies, the family realized they needed to target new business to stay solvent. Army contracts became one of their new accounts, and the Denahans were able to purchase the necessary chemicals and cleaning supplies they needed to stay in business. Despite tough times, the perseverance and flexibility they learned were tangible assets gained.
After the war, and as the family matured and began their own families, some of the siblings branched out into businesses of their own. Doll opened a camera store on East 34th Street, which is the present site of the Affinia Dumont. Jack opened his own cleaners, Shamrock Cleaners, and Dick opened a liquor store on Sutton Place. These were the years when Bud, Barney's eldest son, took leadership of the company.
In 1949, the family was faced with a crisis that became an opportunity. The City of New York and New York Life Insurance targeted the land where the dry cleaning business was located for seizure under eminent domain. Their goal was to erect a parking garage, ostensibly for the benefit of the public, but presumably for the benefit of New York life. The family fought a long, hard court battle, which they finally won by one vote in 1951.
In 1957, the Denehans transitioned from the laundry to the real estate business through the purchase of a building, later to become the Leyden House, located at 320 East 53rd Street. This was one of the family's first efforts to diversify their business mix. It was led by an early development team comprised of Dan, Bud, and Arthur Brashani, a real estate broker, schoolmate, and best friend of Dan's.
The Denehans began to realize that the real estate values in New York City were increasing and that their property at 64th Street would be better utilized in another capacity. They moved the dry cleaning business to a site they purchased at 505 East 75th Street in 1960. And in 1963, the Leyden Gardens was built at the original site. The family never forgot its roots and named the first building they built after their mother and father, combining Lyons and Denehan into one name. The Leyden Gardens began as an unfurnished apartment building, was then developed into furnished apartments, and finally emerged in its present state as an all-suite hotel.
The years from 1963 to 1973 were a period of great growth for the Denehans. The family also experienced two significant losses, that of their mother Julia and their brother Dan. These years also saw the purchase or building of the Leyden Gardens, Beekman, Shelburne, Plaza 50, Surrey, Eastgate, and Southgate. It was a dizzying period of growth and acquisitions. Even though they almost declared bankruptcy during the city's fiscal crisis of the 1970s, the risks they took in pursuing these investments would eventually pay huge rewards.
But success has its own dangers, and the family had to deal with new challenges as it grew. Because of a difference of business opinion, Griff and Bud parted ways and refused to speak with one another for many years. They allowed attorneys to fuel a feud that overshadowed the bonds of brotherhood. Luckily, familial ties were stronger than business differences, and the brothers were able to reconcile shortly before Bud's death.
Throughout his tenure, Bud built a foundation of values as strong as mortar and brick. All the children were instilled with a strong work ethic, a culture of on-the-job training, respect for associates, and shared contribution was fostered.
But much had changed from the early days of the rooming house boarders and the dry cleaning business. The Denehan family had built a strong foundation of property and values, but it soon became clear that what had been accidental, the growth of the business and a family legacy, must become planned if it was to survive.
In 1986, Bud's death, coinciding with the opening of the Dumont Plaza, forced the need for change. The next generation of leadership was left with a rich history, but a need to forge its own vision and future. While all had worked in the business, now they were asked to lead it. Spanning over a decade in age, each had their own hopes and dreams. The family had to consciously learn to work together as a business.
For the first time, the second generation turned to professionals outside the family to help develop a sustainable business model. With this assistance, they were able to form structures that allowed them to grow individually and grow as a business team. They surrounded themselves with the best talent available, established clear roles and responsibilities, and worked hard to keep the communication lines open.
The family also included many family members who were not directly involved in the running of the business but had a personal stake in its success. Family retreats were begun to include the whole family and to develop a shared appreciation for the business as part of a legacy. On this basis, the family was able to enter a new era of expansion and development.
These structures and methods allowed them to face even very difficult decisions and still remain a strong family. In 1995, 6 of the family business partners made the decision to buy out one of the family members' interests because of business differences. Though this was a painful time for all, the family was able to survive because of the open and honest communication methods that had been forged.
In 1999, the Denahan family opened the Benjamin. A tribute to Bud Denahan, the hotel was a new kind of property for the family, an ambitious, four-star hotel that would represent the best in hospitality and luxury. His portrait greets all who enter the lobby of the hotel.
On September 11, 2001, New York City experienced a collective tragedy when the World Trade Center towers were struck. It touched the Denahan family both personally and financially as the company struggled to survive. But in this moment, like no other, the legacy of caring and commitment to the family business and to others steered them through rough waters.
Just 2 years later, in May of 2003, the family was able to enter a new era as Affinia Hospitality, a branded company poised for growth. This company represents all the best traditions of the past while embracing a vision for a new future. The honoring of the family business legacy is best embodied in the company's new logo. The tipping hat is a tribute to Bud, who was known for tipping his hat to everyone he greeted, and a history of gracious hospitality.
Today, the family spans a third generation that includes 23 children from ages 1 to 33, and even its first fourth-generation baby. They face many challenges in growing their business while maintaining a family identity. But our story, which began far away and long ago with one young couple and their dream, offers up many lessons to steer them.
The family that took in the homeless while struggling to survive, whose children worked afternoons to learn the family business, who changed their business time and again while never losing their identity. This family lives today in the collective memory of all those who are part of it. Like all histories and stories, it can help to forge a path to a happily ever after future.